The air in the Hollywood Hills house was thick with champagne, expensive perfume, and the kind of ambition that made people talk a little louder than they normally would. It was January 1983, and the Grammy pre-party was not really a party at all. It was a stage where the music industry came to remind itself who mattered, who was rising, and who still had something to prove. The house belonged to a record executive whose name was never printed on the guest list but was whispered in every deal meeting in Los Angeles. 3 floors of marble and glass, a rooftop terrace that looked out over the entire city, and at night the lights below looked like a chandelier someone had dropped from the sky and forgotten to pick up. Caterers moved through the crowd with trays and eyes down, trained not to make eye contact. Security stood at doors that did not need guarding, because the real purpose was not safety. The purpose was to make the people inside feel like they had been chosen. Quincy Jones was near the fireplace with 2 label heads who nodded faster than they listened. Diana Ross had arrived 40 minutes earlier and had not stopped moving since. She did not walk through a room, she orbited it, and everything else curved toward her without seeming to notice. In the corner, Stevie Wonder sat at a baby grand piano. He was playing something low and private, a melody that seemed to be for himself alone. That was how he survived nights like this. He played so the noise could not get in. Then the front door opened again and Prince came in. Of course he was late. At 24 he had already decided that time was something other people kept. He was 5'2" in bare feet, but tonight he wore purple ruffled silk and high-heeled boots that pushed him to 5'6" if he stood very straight. He did not scan the room. He did not smile for cameras that were not there. He simply entered and let the room adjust to him. Across the space, Michael Jackson was already the gravity. White socks, black loafers, the single glove catching light every time his hand moved. He laughed at the right moments. He listened with his head tilted. People drifted toward him without being invited, because that was what you did when Michael Jackson was in the room. Someone decided this night needed a moment. A label executive with too much cologne and too much confidence put a hand on Michael's shoulder and then gestured toward Prince. The executive's voice was the kind that assumed all introductions were favors. "Michael, you have to meet him. This is Prince. Prince, this is Michael Jackson." The room did not go silent. Silence would have been kinder. Instead it thinned like air leaving a balloon. Conversations did not stop, they just lost volume. Even Stevie's hand slowed on the keys, as if he was listening with his fingers. Prince did not step forward. He did not offer his hand. He stood where he was, looked Michael straight in the eyes, and said 5 words that landed harder than any toast or compliment in the house. "Michael, I'm not here to dance." The sentence did not echo. It settled. It sat in the space between them and made everyone else remember that this was not just a room full of famous people. This was 2 artists who had built their lives on different ideas of what music was for. Michael was a performer. He turned sound into movement, movement into myth. Prince was a musician. He turned feeling into sound, sound into something that cut. Michael did not frown. He did not answer with words. He did what Michael always did when the world got loud and expected a reaction. He listened. He tilted his head slightly, the light hit the glove, and then he smiled. It was not the camera smile. It was smaller, curious, the one he used when a melody surprised him, and then he moved. He did not go to the bar. He did not go to Diana. He walked straight to the baby grand where Stevie was sitting. He asked with a look, and Stevie shifted on the bench. Michael sat down, lifted the fallboard, and put his hands on the keys. For the next 90 seconds he did not speak. He answered Stevie's private melody with his own. He took the soft line and lifted it, turned it, sent it back like a question, then an answer, then a question again. The room forgot to pretend it was not listening. People stopped holding their glasses in the air. Even Quincy turned away from the fireplace. The piano filled the house, not because it was loud, but because it was honest. 2 musicians speaking without lyrics, and every person there understood the language. Prince did not clap. He did not nod for show. He stood with his arms crossed, but slowly, almost without realizing, his arms dropped to his sides. He watched Michael's hands the way a musician watches another musician when they hear something they did not know was possible. The rivalry did not disappear, but it changed shape. It became respect that did not need to announce itself. When the last note faded, Michael stood. He did not take a bow. He did not look around for approval. He glanced once at Prince, a small nod that was not submission and not challenge, and then he walked toward the glass doors that led to the terrace. Prince waited 10 seconds, no more, no less. Then he followed. Nobody else moved. The room stayed where it was, holding its breath. Outside, the Los Angeles night was cool and clear. The city spread below them, endless and indifferent. Michael leaned on the railing and looked out. Prince stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, eyes on the same view. For a long time neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to prove and nothing left to hide. In that quiet, the two greatest artists alive saw each other clearly for the first time. Not as headlines, not as competitors, not as symbols for magazines to argue about. Just as two people who had given their lives to the same impossible thing and had chosen different roads to get there. The door behind them stayed closed. Inside, the party continued. But out on the terrace, the night belonged to them.